of application, undergraduate Education USA application camp. This is the fourth session, and my name is Megha Yadav, and I'm an Education USA advisor. We'll be talking about how to be a writing ninja, how you can slay the undergraduate college essays. Without further ado, let me quickly walk you through the quick housekeeping rules. It'll be great if you could use your headphones for enhanced audio quality. Please keep your microphones muted throughout the session, and you can type in your questions or if there are any concerns in the chat box, and we will address it. I encourage you to type in the most relevant questions pertaining to the topic for today's session, so that we can address all of those relevant questions towards the end of the session. We will not be taking any questions during the session, but towards the end of the session. And we will be posting certain links and some resources in the chat box. So feel free to utilize those in the, to access those during the chat box during the session. Now, today we are, this is the fourth edition of the undergraduate, of the Education USA application camp, which is Be a Writing Ninja, how to slay the undergraduate essays. The next session we will have is on resume writing, which is going to happen on September 14th. If you haven't signed up already, please do so. Before I talk about the Education USA session, the session that we have today, I will quickly tell you about who we are and what do we do. So Education USA is your official source on US higher education, and we are supported by the US Department of State, which means we are the US government network, and we offer accurate, current, and comprehensive information, and most importantly, unbiased information to students who wish to pursue their higher studies abroad in the United States. The way we work with with students on their application process, we also work with US universities and colleges, and there are about 4,700 accredited higher education institutions in the United States. And our presence across the globe is in 175 plus countries, where we have more than 430 centers across the globe. In India, we're located in 7 cities, and we have 8 centers, and every center is hosted by different organizations. So there are about 4 host institutions in India. The centers in Chennai, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Mumbai, and New Delhi function under United States India Educational Foundation, also known as USIEF, also known as Fulbright Commission in India. It's a binational entity that manages the Fulbright fellowships in India. The center in Bangalore or Bengaluru is hosted by Yashna Trust. The center in Ahmedabad center is hosted by Indo-American Educational Society. The newest center that we have in India is in Hyderabad, which is managed by Y-Axis Foundation. Now, to begin with, Education USA has curated these 5 steps. Right now, we are at step 3, where we are only talking about how to complete your application, and we're looking at various components of completing those various application components, how you can work on those. Today's session is primarily about that. Today's session is about undergraduate essays and how you can work on your undergraduate essays, and we have universities helping us talk about what are the things you should keep in mind before you even start with your essay writing, before you even start writing your essays. Now, how you can connect with Education USA is through various services. Almost every services, except for the one that you see in red, all these services are offered to students free and open to all. It's everything that you see here. My colleagues will be putting down these links in the chat box. We do various events, the free virtual specialized sessions for students on admission and application process. The sessions are usually done with US university representatives, currently enrolled students, student alumni, as well as testing agencies. We also offer free virtual Ask an Advisor sessions on the 5 steps that I just talked about in the previous slide. You can certainly explore those sessions. If you've got a question, ask away your questions in the Ask an Advisor session. You can also explore our calendar of events where we keep sharing a lot of various session details, a lot of sessions that we conduct. And if you want to learn about the universities, about our sessions and scholarships, feel free to sign yourself up. You can also follow us on our social media handles that we have. We are available on all the 3 social media handles, that is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We're also available on YouTube as well. So this is the red bit, that the red bullet that I talked about, individual guided advising, is that comes with a fee, but it does offer the following services. If you need to learn more about it, you can find this information on our websites. You can explore all of that. And if you are also looking for first-hand information about studying in the US, Education USA has come up with a mobile app, which is available on App Store as well as on Play Store. Like I said, we're the official source. You will find...
Megha, I'm so
Megha,
sorry to disturb you in the middle.
We can't see the slides.
We're not able to see the slides. And
Oh,
we actually haven't been able to see them since the start of your presentation.
Oops, I am so sorry. Can
Yeah.
you see the slides now?
Visible now, yes.
I am so sorry, so sorry. So these are the 5 steps that I was talking about. And I was talking about the services. These are the services. If you like, you can probably take the screenshot as well. And these are the services that we offer at student memberships. If anyone is looking for individual guided advising, feel free to take up the screenshot. And the mobile app that I was talking about, this is the mobile app. We are available on App Store as well as on Play Store. Download this app to get the first-hand information. And if you have any questions about studying in the US, do write to us through this app, and all these questions are answered by the Education USA advisors. Our Education USA YouTube channel serves as 24/7 advising, which houses a huge repository of our pre-recorded webinars. So you can certainly explore these pre-recorded videos that are available on our YouTube channel. Because if you are actually starting your journey, your application journey, our YouTube channel serves just the stepping stone for your application journey, so you can explore that. And also today's session is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel, so in case you've missed out on any bit of the session, you can find it there on our YouTube channel. We also have our university fairs, our much awaited US university virtual fairs that are coming up. Our graduate fair is going to happen on September 3rd. Our undergraduate fair is going to happen on September 10th. So you can feel free to scan this QR code. You can take a screenshot of this. We will also be putting down the registration link in the chat box. Do explore the link for this as well, and register. Come and interact with various universities, and while you plan your applications, for fall 2022, for fall 2023. I'm so sorry. These are our contact information that you can explore. You can take a screenshot of the contact information of all the centers that we have, and here are our today's panelists. So today we have with us Carl E. Anderson from University of Arkansas, Asta Chikara from University of California, Riverside, and Emily Halbeck from University of Wisconsin-Madison, who have graciously agreed to help us, talk about Education USA, help us talk about application essays, how you can actually slay your undergraduate application essays, what are the things you should keep in mind, what are the things you should not do while you're writing your essays. So without much ado, I will hand it over to Emily, who will be talking about, who will take us through the next slide. And yeah, over to you, Emily.
Thank you, Megha. I do want to extend a really big thank you to Megha and all of Education USA for having the three of us here at this event, for organizing this event. Undergraduate college essays are a big component of applying to college, so we are really excited to talk to you about this today. What you can expect us is, or for us to do rather, is to cover three different areas when it comes to slaying your undergraduate college essay. First, we will answer this all-important question: why do universities even ask for an essay? Next, we will give you an overview of the types of college essays you could encounter, as well as some example prompts you might see. And finally, we will conclude by talking about some tips and tricks for actually sitting down and writing your college essays. It is a lot to cover, and we will go ahead and dive right in by answering that question: why do universities ask for an essay or for multiple essays? And there are quite a few reasons why we do this. The first is that your essays demonstrate your writing and critical thinking skills. So by looking at your essays, we are able to evaluate your skills and to see that you are prepared to find success at the college level in both writing and critical thinking. Another reason we ask for essays is that they are a really good way to evaluate your fit and your values that might align with a specific college or university. So fit is going to describe how well you and a university connect, and that you share values and that you share goals. And keep in mind, you might be a good fit for a lot of schools. So in your essays, when you write about it, it can come through that you might share some values of a school, that you can see yourself really bringing a lot of strengths to a university's community. And by looking at that essay, that is how that can come through. Carl is going to go ahead and talk about the next few reasons why we ask for undergraduate college essays.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. And as Emily said, thank you to Megha and all of Education USA for inviting us. So another reason that universities ask for essays is as part of a holistic review. So universities realize that students that are applying into their institutions are more than just the sum of their academic parts, their grade point average, their test scores. They realize that students also have lots of other activities that they've been engaged with throughout their education, volunteering, community service, etc. And so they may want an essay to describe your non-academic background. And they want to use this then as part of a holistic review to look at your academic background and your academic fit for the university, but also to get a better idea of who you are as a person, as an individual. So I always describe essays of this sort as being an opportunity for you to describe yourself beyond your academics. Another reason that universities will ask for essays, is to help them with scholarship decisions. And a little bit later on, I'll be walking you through a little bit more about scholarship and some of the potential scholarship essay prompts. But again, with scholarships, universities also typically want to take a holistic review. They will have your academic background. They'll know, again, your GPA, your test scores, etc., where you perhaps rank in your class. But with scholarship considerations, they also want to know what you have done beyond just your schoolwork, beyond just your academics, because that also helps them to get to know the true you, the whole you. And so between holistic review for admissions purposes, and also then within the realm of evaluating students for potential scholarship awards, those are just two additional reasons that universities may ask you to write an undergraduate essay. And I'm going to turn it back over to Emily now to take us through the final few reasons.
So I'm quickly going to jump in here. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Asta Chikara, and I represent University of California, Riverside. I'm based in New Delhi, India, and I'm happy to support you guys with, any of your queries that you guys have regarding your UC applications. Um, at the outset, I just want to warn everyone, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a conference. If you hear, any sounds at the back, I'm so sorry. I apologize in advance for that. I want to, share with you the fifth and sixth point, which is about why we require these essays. And I'm going to take you guys through the personal insight questions in just a little bit. But before that, we really use these essays to get to know a little bit more about you. Since some universities don't ask for letters of recommendation, this is a place where you talk about yourself. I know it can feel like you're just boasting about yourself in these essays, but please don't hesitate. Don't feel like that's a wrong thing to do, but also don't overdo that, as well. So this is not a place to put down, one's resume. It's just for us to get to know you better. We're not looking for the best author out there or the most published author, that exists. We're really looking to get to know you better and looking to understand if you, kind of fit in our university, or not. So I'll pass it over now for the next slide.
All right. So I'm going to talk now for the next couple of minutes about the various types of college essays that you may see or that you may be asked to write about. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more later on about some specific essay prompts that you may see. But really, when it comes to the types of college essays that you may see, it really comes down to what the university or colleges that you're applying into want you to say and want to know about you, that will help them then in their admissions process, in their review process. So using an online application, i.e. the Common App, you'll typically have a variety of different prompts that you can choose from, and we're going to show those here in just a few moments. It also will depend, the type of essay that you may be asked to write can also depend upon whether it's coming from the college in general. So for example, here at my institution, when you're applying into the undergraduate admissions office, the undergraduate admissions office may have their own set of prompts that they want you to write about, especially if you're applying for scholarships. But in some cases, the individual program that you're applying into may also ask you to provide an essay, and they may have a very specific prompt. It may be something related to why you're wanting to choose the particular program that you're applying into, whatever that may be, business, engineering, etc., what you hope to gain from that program long term. It may be something like, why are you choosing the University of XYZ to apply into? What do you hope to gain from that university? And why are you choosing that university? And different schools will ask for different types of essays. Again, some of those may be very general, and we're going to show some examples later on. Some may be very specific, like I just mentioned. Why are you choosing University XYZ? Or if it's coming from the program level, which I think tends to be a little bit more common when you're applying at the graduate level than undergraduate, but I have seen undergraduate programs asking very program specific questions as well. So it could be specific to the university, it could be specific to the program you're applying into. So I would encourage you to think about the reasons, which I'm sure you're all doing. Not only why are you wanting to pursue your education in the US, but why are you wanting to pursue and why are you looking at the specific schools you're applying into, but also the specific programs that you're applying into as well, because you may be asked to write about those reasons. You may get prompts to gauge your creativity, as Emily was mentioning, also your critical thinking skills. These sorts of prompts help universities to gauge your ability to be successful as an undergraduate student, as a college student. So again, prompts to gauge creativity, your critical thinking skills, your analytical skills. You may see short answer essay prompts or essay questions. And in some cases, you might have universities that are requiring you to submit multiple essays. If that's the case, usually, not always, but a lot of times, those multiple essays, you may be asked to choose 2 or 3 and perhaps provide a short paragraph for each. Remember that regardless of the type of essay and why they're asking you to write about the specific prompt that they are, these are opportunities for you to be succinct, to really explain and describe yourself and why you're choosing the university, why you're choosing the program, what motivates you. And so I would really encourage you to think about this ahead of time, maybe even choose a couple of prompts that we're going to give you examples of in just a few moments, and maybe just write a couple of practice essays just to get you in that sort of mindset of, okay, here's a prompt, here's what I want to say about this, because I think that will help you then as you begin the actual application process. And also keep in mind that you're going to more than likely be applying into multiple schools. And so you're probably going to have multiple essays, different types of essays or essay prompts that you'll have to write about. So kind of be thinking about that as well. So a lot of different types of college essays that you may be able to, that you may be asked to write about, coming from the college level all the way down to perhaps the program level, but also for financial aid or scholarships. And I'll talk more about that specifically in just a few more slides. Ready for the next slide? So types of essay prompts. So again, keeping in mind what I just mentioned about the various types of essays. When you're applying into colleges or universities in the United States, the prompts will oftentimes ask you to do one or more of the following. They may ask you to explain a challenge that you have overcome. So something in your life that put a roadblock perhaps in goals that you were trying to achieve, and how you overcame those, the steps you took, the process you took to overcome whatever challenges it was that stood in your way. You may be asked to discuss a moment or a period of growth. And of course, that could come with, often does come with, challenges that you faced. So perhaps as you're describing a challenge and how you overcame that challenge, they also might want you to touch on how you grew out of that period, what you learned from that experience. They may ask you to write, or I'm sorry, to reflect on any number of past experiences, things that have been highlights perhaps of your secondary or educational career. Again, these past experiences could be challenges, they could have been periods of growth. Perhaps they are opportunities that you had while engaging in community service or volunteerism. They may ask you to provide context for community disruption, and this is something typically you would see on the Common App. I guess what I really want to kind of draw your attention to here is a lot of the essays that you may be asked, or potential essays you may be asked to write about, or a lot of the prompts that you may be asked to write about will in some way, shape, or form be asking you to focus on growth, self-reflection, meeting challenges, things that have really shaped you and helped you to become who you are at this moment in time, and how these experiences have helped to make you ready for the challenge that's coming ahead as you pursue higher education, as you pursue your bachelor's degree. And so, again, kind of similar to what I mentioned during the last slide, regardless of where you may be right now in the process of thinking about applying into colleges or universities, it's really never too early to start reflecting on where you are now and where you've come from, and how those experiences that you've had, those challenges that you've had, those moments of success, how they have helped bring you to where you are now, and how they will help you to succeed as a college student a year from now, 2 years from now, 6 months from now, as you begin your academic program of study here in the US. Next slide, please.
So really quickly, we just wanted to give you an idea of maybe what some prompt examples could look like. So we took this from the Common App website. These are the general essay prompts that you can choose from if you are planning to apply as a first-year student for the upcoming admissions cycle, which could be spring 2023, summer 2023, or fall 2023. So you can see that of these 7 prompts, a lot of them do focus on growth, self-reflection, overcoming challenges, all of the things that Carl just mentioned. And so as you're looking at these, maybe you can kind of see one that really speaks to you. Maybe you see one that makes you immediately think of an experience you can write about. And definitely keep that in mind, because that is a great place to start. You can start writing this, you can start reflecting, and hopefully by the time it comes to apply, you already have this in mind. Again, these are just a couple of examples. We do want to give you just a sense of maybe what each of our universities might require as far as essay prompts. So at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, we do require 2 essays. First-year students can apply using the Common App. So you would choose an essay prompt from here, or they can apply using the University of Wisconsin system application. And that essay prompt, or rather that first essay prompt, is going to again ask you to describe a time where you overcame a challenge and what you learned from it. Our second essay prompt is going to be the same for everyone, and it is going to ask that all-important question of why you are interested in the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So again, you're going to get an essay that focuses on your self-reflection and an essay that asks you to talk about your interest in our university if you are applying to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Carl is going to briefly touch upon what happens at the University of Arkansas, and then Asta will finish by following with UC Riverside.
So at the University of Arkansas, if a student, if an international student is applying through the Common App, so let me back up. For international students at the University of Arkansas, unless you're applying for scholarship consideration, we actually do not require a college essay to be submitted. And that doesn't mean you can't submit one if you want to. If you're applying through the Common App, most international students that are applying into the University of Arkansas will submit an essay, and they'll submit one of these. They'll write on one of these examples that you see here. But again, if you're an international student applying into the University of Arkansas, especially if you're applying through our institutional application platform, we're not going to require a college essay to be submitted. And so we don't have any specific topics for you. However, if you are applying for scholarships through the University of Arkansas, which most of our international students do, we do require an essay to be submitted. And the next slide, I'm going to share some of those examples with you. But one example that I will share here that we also may ask is, as an example, we may ask you, if you're applying for scholarships, one of the options we will give you is to include 3 works of either fiction, nonfiction, it could be poetry, drama, history, science, engineering, that you've read during the past year and that you've enjoyed, and to reflect on those 3 works and how they've impacted you, how they've helped you to grow in your thinking, and to describe what you found about the work to be significant to you. So that is one example that we may, that international students may choose to write about when applying for scholarships. But I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about those during the next slide when we talk about scholarship essays. So one thing that I think it's important to kind of keep in mind is that when you're applying as undergraduate students, you may be asked, in fact, you probably will be asked in most cases, to submit more than one essay. So you may be asked to submit an essay for your undergraduate admissions process, okay? Again, just because the University of Arkansas doesn't require a specific essay for undergraduate international admissions. A lot of universities do. But if you're applying for scholarship consideration, you may be asked to submit, in fact, in most cases, you will be asked to submit an additional essay. You may, in fact, be asked to submit multiple essays. You may be asked to submit 2 or 3 short essays for admissions purposes, 2 or 3 short essays for scholarship purposes. So keep that in mind as well when you're applying into universities and researching universities. You may be asked to submit more than 1 or 2 or even 3 essays, depending upon the schools you're applying into. With scholarship essays, of course, with scholarships, if they are merit-based, meaning they're based primarily upon your incoming academic background, your grades, your test scores, those are going to be important considerations for the scholarship committee and for the institution. However, similar to holistic admissions decisions, scholarship committees also do realize that when looking at scholarship applications, students are more than the sum of their academic parts. And so in addition to looking at your transcripts, in addition to looking at your test scores, they will also want to see an essay from you to help them in their scholarship review process. In addition to the example that I gave previously about selecting 3 different types of fiction or nonfiction works from a wide variety of topics to reflect on, these are 3 examples that I've taken actually directly from the University of Arkansas. However, this type of scholarship essay is not uncommon sort of across the spectrum of universities here in the US. So one example, historians have often maintained that it is important to have a gap of 50 years between their own time period and their subject matter. Identify an invention or idea that was developed more than 50 years ago that still has a major effect on the way we live today. Why did you choose this particular invention or idea? Another possible topic, identify an artist or inventor in the world today who inspires you and tell us why. A third possible option, what is an important philosophical, academic, or creative question you would like to address during your college and possibly professional career, and explain why. I will also add that scholarship essays can be a chance for you to also talk about your volunteer history, your community service history. I often encourage students to think about athletics. Athletics are very important to a lot of international students. What have athletics taught you about challenge and overcoming adversity and being successful? These are just 3 possible scholarship essay examples, but there's a lot of different potential essay prompts for scholarships out there. Again, keep in mind, these essays are going to be an opportunity for you to talk about yourself separate from and outside of, or I guess a better way of putting it is in addition to your academic background and the success that you've had academically as a student. Because again, we realize you are more than just your academic background. And so keep that in mind as you're thinking about potential scholarship essays as well. Next slide, please.
So I'm going to take it forward now for the UC application personal insight question section. So as most of you who are applying to the UCs must be aware, we're not on Common Apps, and you have to apply through a separate application, and the same application can be submitted to all the UCs together. You just have to pay a separate application fee for each campus that you're applying to. Now, an integral part of this application is the personal insight question section. And so basically, it's not really a statement of purpose essay or a detailed essay, but there are 8 questions that you have to choose from, and you have to respond to any 4 questions. There are no brownie points for responding to 5 and 4 is the exact amount of questions that you need to answer. There is a 350 word maximum limit. So please don't exceed that 350 words, because the answer will be cut off in case you're typing it on Microsoft Word or you're typing it elsewhere and you paste it there. After 350 words, the answer will be cut off, and we don't want to be left hanging when we're reading your response, which does happen with a few students. I don't want to, make sure And all the questions that we have here are of equal value. So please don't think that one question or the other is of lesser value, or you can gain more points by answering a certain question. There are no questions that are better than the others, and there are nor are there any other questions that one must really respond to, because that's what what the UC wants. We want you to choose the questions that really reflect who you are and provide an insight on your experiences and environment and circumstances that are there. So really keep in mind that the PIQs can be really used for selection purposes, depending on which campus you're applying to. The UC campuses don't really interview students, so, and neither do we accept any letters of recommendation. It's a completely self-sufficient, application that you guys can fill yourself. That's why the PIQs are really perfect for you to share your story or your experience with the admissions representatives who will be reading them. This is your chance to really, kind of have an interaction with them. This is really your chance to maximize your voice on the application and really tell us what makes you you. That's what we're wanting to know about. The focus should be on you. You can use I and my in statements when you're answering this as well. So the PIQs can be used in various different ways. So some campuses may use them in selection to award any scholarships, or to help any of the readers really understand parts of the application that may not be very clear to them. And most of the students who are applying to the UCs, are very competitive applicants. And in terms of GPA as well, it's very, very competitive. And the UCs are academically, selective. So context is really key in terms of your PIQs. So we're not comparing you against other individual students. We're really looking to understand your individual experience, your environment, where you're coming from, and assessing your application based on that. So you're really encouraged to provide context to really help us understand your home, your school, your community life, where you're coming from. Essentially, whatever information will be helpful for the admissions team to know what we can know about you from the application that we can't really see from the other parts of the application. So grades and courses, really help us understand how well, you work. And the PIQs essentially will help us understand how you're thinking in a sense. So the PIQs will really allow you to tell your own story in your own words, and it'll really help the admissions team as well understand what is important to you as a student as well. So of course, academic performance for the UCs is always going to be, most important part of the application. But we really want to get to know you, not only, how well you're doing, but why you've made certain choices, why you have a certain type of background. We want to understand how you think beyond just how you're performing academically. So if we can move on to the next slide, I would like to take you guys through 2 examples of prompts that we do see on the UC application. You can in fact go on the web, you can find the 8 prompts that are there. So one of the examples, the first one that I'll take up right now, so describe an example of your leadership experience in which you've positively influenced others, helped resolve disputes, or contributed to group efforts over time. So what we want to know from you in this is not just the fact that you're a leader of an organization or a club or a society and how well you've done there. Was there a time really in your life when you stepped up and you took the role of a leader in maybe a group or a team or a family or maybe even a work setting that you may have been a part of? So really briefly describing that experience and then exploring what that experience meant to you. How did you grow from that leadership experience? So just knowing that you were a leader is not enough. We want to know your growth cycle as well. So if there's any impact, what is the impact that it had in your life, and maybe what is the contribution it's making in your life till date? Just remember here that we're not looking at a definition of what a leader is. We're really, not asking if you have a leadership role or title, but really how that experience has helped you grow, being that leader. So I'd now like to also, take up a second prompt, with you. So every person has a creative side and it can be expressed in many ways. problem solving, original and innovative thinking, and artistically, to name a few. Describe how you express your creative side. So in this, give an example of your creativity. The more unique it is, the better it is. You don't have to think that creativity is just in the form of art, dance, anything like that. So give an example of your creativity. Don't limit yourself to a conventional definition of what creativity is. Was there ever any problem in your life where your imagination or your intuition really guided you to a solution? We'd love to know, maybe that example from you. What was that problem? How did you arrive at that solution? What was the outcome of that problem as well? So also, if you're pursuing a creative passion, do you have such a passion, and what have you really gained from that passion that has affected many other parts of your life, or of the lives of those around you? So this is a little bit about like of an overview of what we're expecting in the answers. We're not expecting you to have word to word sort of answers. We really want to get to know you. So moving on to the next slide. So the PIQs essentially is an opportunity for you to showcase yourself, your interests, your experiences, your highlights. So while you're not expected to capture everyone's sort of life story in just one or 4 answers that you will be responding to, you can provide us a snapshot of these small parts of your life that you have had. So these responses are really personal because they're about you, so they can't be copied from the internet. And also, like, we really want to get to know you when we review these responses. What are your components to kind of add to this overall UC application? Also, what these PIQs are not. So essentially, PIQ responses, they're not an audition. It's not a portfolio piece where you just kind of sample a bunch of your writing styles to admissions purposes. They're not academic essays in which you, must have a topic, a concluding sentence, or hooks to capture, the attention of, the admissions team. So your vocabulary, of course, should be correct. You can't use wrong vocabulary, but using words that you normally use. You don't have to over impress us with, difficult words that you're going to use. And finally, there should not, be a very complex survey of your life. Rather than listing out, all your life events, you should focus on 1 or 2 examples in your life, because you've gone through a lot in the first 17 years and you can't capture all of that within just 4 PIQs, right? So in essence, just provide us an important highlight of your life that you want the admissions team to really read about. So moving to the next slide.
Great, thank you. Up to this point, we have talked about why universities ask you to write essays for undergraduate college admissions in the first place, and we've gone through some sample essay types and some sample essay prompts. Now we are going to transition into talking about what are we looking for in your essays, and how does that translate into you sitting down and writing the essays yourself? So again, what are we in our admissions offices looking for in your essays? As a reminder, these college essays are reviewed for content and for those college-ready writing skills, making sure you have answered the prompts to the best of your ability, and then also evaluating that you are ready for the next step in your educational career and that you are prepared to find success. As Carl and Asta have mentioned up to this point, essays also really help us learn about you. The essays are a way for us to get to know you beyond just your course and grades, and that is often how we get to evaluate you from that holistic standpoint. Keeping these 2 things in mind, what does that mean when you are ready to sit down and start writing your essay? And Asta is going to go ahead and talk about how to get started in the next slide.
Great, thank you so much. So when you're writing this essay, essentially, please review prompts and brainstorm. So brainstorm with your friends, with other students, colleagues, parents, teachers. Really brainstorm that idea that you're thinking of writing about, because your point of view only can add so much. And really thinking about a complex problem, you can come up with different sort of solutions as well. So similarly, when you get feedback from others, when you hear about their point of view as well, it'll really add on, to your essay. So number 2 is creating an outline, like create a rough draft of what you want to write, write about. Number 3, writing a few drafts and having 1 or 2 people proofread them as well. Why that really helps, another way of proofreading I find very, very beneficial is reading it out aloud, because sometimes when you're reading it just, by yourself in your mind, you tend to skip a few words, add a few words. When you're reading it out aloud, you'll be able to see if it's grammatically correct or not. And number 5 is really starting early. And also one point that I, want to definitely highlight here is when you're starting early, please always have a backup of these questions that you're answering, because we cannot emphasize this enough. A lot of students write out their essays and then, somehow either due to a power outage or due to internet issues, they lose, their essay, or maybe the web page that they're typing on, especially for the UC application. If you're typing on exactly in the application, it will time out after some time and you might have to restart. So please keep saving your stuff, save it, in an offline document as well. Maybe if you've got a rough draft, take a printout of that. So even if you're editing online, in case you do lose it, you do have, something like a paper as well that you can rely on. So moving to the next slide. Great. So essentially just want to re-talk about a few of these, points, what your essay should not be. Don't make this your resume. We don't want to see a list of activities. We will see that extracurricular activities or resumes page separately. Again, we want to know about, what you reflect from a situation. We don't want to know a list of activities. So what this point really means about only recount. Essentially, what did you learn from it? How has it changed and how did you grow? We are not essentially just wanting to know in depth about a certain incident that happened, but what really you took back from that situation. The third point is what you shouldn't do is be too broad. So please elaborate on a specific situation. Like I mentioned to you in the UC application, you have 17 years. You cannot fit that in 350 words. Similarly, please pick up certain instances from your life and really a specific situation or a moment or time in your life, and you can focus on that. And send your first draft. So again, please remember, we are, of course, not looking at professional writing skills, but please don't send us your immediate first draft. Please have someone proofread it or somebody else go through it as well. So can I request you for the next slide? Yeah. So focusing on what you should do, in your essays. Number 1 is answering the question or the prompt. Please, kind of stick to the prompt in essence, because being creative, being unique is great, but if we're really asking you for a question, we're looking for an answer somewhere around that topic. So make sure you answer what is being asked. Number 2 is write about you. What is your story? What makes you unique? We really want to get to know you, if you're a good fit for us or not. Again, write about you. Taking examples from online sources or from the people in your environment is great. But in this application, we're wanting to get to know you. So for example, if you want to talk about a, like a flourishing business, and you do take up the example of Ambani, so to say, that's great for him, but we want to know about you. Yeah. So the third point is use your voice. Really read it out aloud. Does it sound like you? Does it feel like, you've written this? So you can focus on that. And please make it personal. So be thoughtful and write about something that you care about and are passionate about, and you'll really connect with the reader. So these are some of the points that I wanted to highlight.
All right, moving on to the next slide. So thank you, Aftha, for talking about some do's and don'ts of the essay. And we're going to keep going with additional essay tips. So the first one is tailor each essay for each university you apply to. It's likely you might be applying to more than one. And with this, make sure you go to each university's website, make sure you review the essay prompts and the parameters. So that should include the word count, that should include what you are supposed to be answering, and then tailor each and every essay for each and every university you apply to. We would strongly caution against the fill in the blank university essay where you say, I want to attend this university because your psychology program has this specific attribute or this attribute. This is pretty easy to spot if you are just copying and pasting and are not using specifics. This is also a really easy way to accidentally say you're applying to the University of Arkansas when you really are applying to the University of California, Riverside. So be very, very aware of that. Make sure you proofread. And then as you're tailoring each essay to each university, this is your chance to be specific. So in the chat, I did see a question that asks, what are you looking for if it's a university-specific essay? Some examples could be, let us know about your academic interests specific to a university, whether it's a major, a program, or even a professor that you think you would really want to work with. In addition, consider how you might like to get involved in that specific university community that shows that you can see yourself there and really thriving there. And then finally, consider what you hope to gain from your university education and maybe how that specific university can help you achieve that. Throughout all of this, just use those details, demonstrate that you have done some research and that this university is going to be a good fit for you and that you are going to be a good fit for the university. The second point is remember what all of your writing teachers have taught you. This is an essay, and so all of those things do apply in creating a well-organized and clear essay. So do use transitions between paragraphs, make connections between ideas within the same paragraphs. All of those grammar rules are going to apply, and be aware of overusing quotations. This is an essay where we want to see your voice, so don't rely too much on what other people have said. We want to hear what you have to say. Next point, be succinct or be concise. Some essays might only allow you to have a 650 word count, and sometimes it's even less. So every word is going to count, and make sure you think carefully about what you want to say and the best way you can say it, because sometimes you do not have a lot of space to do so. Next, be aware of your language. So this is not an academic essay, as we've mentioned, but this is a way for you to present yourself, and make sure you're using language that you feel is going to put your best foot forward, that's going to present you in the way in which you want to be presented. Finally, something that we could advise you to do is maybe provide an eye-catching first sentence or paragraph. This isn't necessary, but it's a really great way for us to feel excited and to want to learn more. If you're struggling with how to begin, one tip I actually use is I'll write everything else first. I'll write my second paragraph first, my third paragraph first, and then I will go back and write the first essay because I already know what's going to come. And then it's really easy for me to figure out a good way to start the essay. So again, these are just a few tips to keep in mind as you're writing. You might receive additional tips, and that's great. Just figure out what is going to work best for you. And as always, make sure you are answering the prompt and following all of the guidelines for each university you apply to. Moving on to the next slide, the final question we often see is, how can I stand out? And so as admissions counselors, or at least specifically here at UW-Madison, some common essay topics we tend to see include sports injuries, friendship issues, and leadership skills developed through extracurricular activities or commitments. That is not to say that these lessons are not important, that these experiences do not have value. They definitely do. This is how you are developing as a person, and these are the experiences you have. Just keep in mind, we do see a lot of essays that focus on these. So if you do want to stand out, go ahead and think outside of the box. Consider experiences that might be unique to you, and if you feel comfortable writing about them, that's a great place to start. If you're struggling to come up with a big moment, that's okay. Not all of these moments have to be big. Start thinking about maybe smaller experiences, smaller things you might like to talk about, and then build your essay out from there. As a reminder, this essay is not a step-by-step recipe. You do not put your first sentence here, your second sentence here, your third sentence here, and all of that as a formula. It is not. An essay is more of a discussion for you to demonstrate maybe some growth, some self-reflection, or maybe talk a little bit more about the university you're interested in. And using a formula is not a way for you to stand out. Again, don't copy and paste. That's a pretty great way to show that you haven't been, or that you have not researched as much as maybe you could. And finally, be thoughtful, be passionate, and be you. One thing I like to tell students is you don't have to write about something you think I, as an admissions counselor, want to read. I promise you, I'm going to read every word of your essay regardless. So a better way is for you to write about something that you want to write about. This really comes through in the essays. If you're writing about something that you're interested in, that passion comes through, that thoughtfulness comes through, your voice comes through. And so that stands out. That really shows that you have considered your next steps in education, that you've considered how you want to succeed in university, and that really shows the strengths and values you would be bringing to our university community if that is going to be a good fit for you. So I know a lot of college essays can seem overwhelming, but hopefully we have gone through a lot of tips and tricks to at least help get you started. Moving on to the next slide is we're actually going to introduce our universities really quickly, maybe taking 3 to 5 minutes each, just to give you a sense of maybe some universities that are out there, maybe some that you have considered, or those that you have not. So Carl is going to go ahead and get us started by talking about the University of Arkansas.
Thank you, Emily. So the University of Arkansas is a large public land-grant university. We just this past year have celebrated our 150th anniversary. So by United States standards, we're not young, we're not necessarily really old, but we've been around for a while. We're a large, as I said, public university. Classes for the fall semester just started on Monday. And as of fall 2022, we have just over 31,000 students. Those represent all 50 states in the United States, as well as about 108 different countries from around the world. The breakdown there, as you can see, we are a primarily undergraduate institution, about 26,000 students. We are, though, a comprehensive institution, which means we offer bachelor's, master's, PhD, and graduate certificate programs and micro-credentials. So we have about 4,000 graduate students. We have 1,180 international students from, actually that should be 108 different countries. We have about almost 500 undergraduate international students, and then about 700 international graduate students studying with us. We do offer over 200 academic programs to choose from. So I always tell students, regardless of what it is that you want to study or think you may want to study, whatever your interests are, I can almost guarantee that we have a program for you that would fit and meet your interests. We really do encourage community on our campus. We want our students to get to know one another. We want them to become involved on campus. We understand that that is an important part of your education. Yes, you are here to study and earn your degree, but we also want you to get involved, develop your soft skills, your leadership skills, your communication skills. And a great way to do that is through one of our 350 plus registered student organizations. Many of those student organizations are international specific. And we really want students to become involved on campus, develop those skills that are important to you outside of your academics. Even though we are a large university, we do have a faculty to student ratio of only 1 to 18. Yes, your first, core courses that you take during your freshman year will likely be larger, 100, 150 students. But as you move into your academic career with us, your class size will shrink. That's important when it comes to developing relationships with your faculty members, with your academic advisors, but also with your fellow students and developing those personal relationships that will serve you while you're here, but also after you graduate and on into your professional careers. We have a brand new Student Success Center that just opened last spring. That includes our academic coaching center, career studio, tutoring. We provide mentoring as well out of that office. If you are struggling in any way or finding challenges in any way, shape, or form with your academics, with your personal life on campus. We have resources for you that you can access. We want to make sure that you have everything that you need to succeed and be successful on our campus. The goal with this Student Success Center over time is to essentially move every office that undergraduate students need to access during their time on campus, the treasurer's office, the registrar's office, academic services, all of those services that students need to access over the course of their career. The idea is to move those all into one location so that students know where to go to deal with housing issues, registration issues, pay your bills, receive academic mentoring and coaching all in one place. So that's just a brief overview of the University of Arkansas. If you have any additional questions, of course, I'm happy to take them at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please.
Thank you so much. I'm going to take you guys through a little bit about UCR. So for those of you that are new to the UCs or are hearing about it for the first time, I'm sure you've heard of UCLA, UC Berkeley. So essentially we're 10 UC campuses across the state of California. 9 of them offer undergraduate programs, and UC Riverside is located in Southern California, about an hour east of Los Angeles and about an hour and a half north of San Diego. So essentially we're one of the top 10 California institutions that you guys can apply to. We're also ranked on the top rank in social mobility for the past 3 years. So something that I do like to elaborate to students as well. And also a lot of engineering students coming from India. So even in terms of computer science, we have excellent programs that our faculties do, share with you. In order to understand a little bit about, the programs, we have 150 majors and minors that you can choose from. If you're a student coming from India, and you're not certain about, the major that you'd like to, study at, please feel free to take a few classes. If you feel the need to change, your major, you can sit with your academic advising, personnel, and they can really advise you on how to, change your major as well. Now, the highlight again, for the UCs is that we're test blind. So for those of you that are wanting to, not consider SATs or ACT, feel free to apply to us. Without that, we don't consider them for admissions purposes. And even in terms of IELTS and TOEFL, for those of you coming from schools where your medium of instruction has been English, you can actually just check mark in the application, and you don't have to take the IELTS or the TOEFL. As you can see brightly, publicized here, the non-resident academic achievement scholarship. So this is a merit-based scholarship that we offer for students that have grade point average of 3.5 and above. And it goes from $3,000 to $13,500 a year. $4,500 per quarter. And again, that is renewable based on the fact that you maintain your GPA. So for those of you considering UC Riverside, this is a great plus point that I do like to share with students. Another aspect is the faculty. So you have extremely well-researched, well-read faculty teaching you. There are Nobel laureates that are part of our faculty members, and we really want to ensure that the students have a great research experience at the undergrad level. And to further that, we have research centers where you can collaborate with faculty members, with your classmates at the undergrad level. You don't have to wait to be a master's student to publish research again. Talking about other extracurricular activities that you can do, there are 500 clubs and organizations that you can be part of. And in terms of, understanding the student strength, we're about 26,000 plus students on campus and about 3,000 international students. And so understanding just, California as a place is what I want to talk a little bit about you from my experience as well of having done my undergraduate studies, in California. So it is a very, very diverse, state. You will find people from the world over there. So essentially, when you're leaving India, to go and study in a new destination, that's what you're looking at. You are looking at students, coming from different perspectives, different faculty, as well, that are sharing this with you. We are a very, very inclusive campus, despite being, so large in number. It's a very family-like atmosphere. And in terms of location as well, we're located in sunny Southern California. So for those of you that can't really, maybe fly back to India, of course, for the summer and the winter break, you can come back and, meet your families, but maybe for spring break or for Thanksgiving break, when you can't really, fly back to India for just 3 or 4 days, you can take trips with your friends, make new friends, get to know people. We have the mountains as well as the beaches on either side, just about 40 minutes, drive on either side. Like I mentioned, we're located near Los Angeles, so you're not paying, a residence hall fee as high as maybe staying or housing, maybe as expensive as Los Angeles. So you kind of, do benefit in that sense. Also, we do provide housing on and off campus, and there is, shuttle service around campus, as well, that is free for students. And the last thing that I want to talk about, the social mobility ranking or the best value college. What's the reason that we have that? We have an excellent career development center. So for students that are looking at a return on investment for the amount of money you're putting into your education, the 4 years that you're putting into your education as well, there is a team that will work alongside your profile, work not just on your resume, but help you kind of find the right kind of match for you. Polish your resumes, do mock interviews, host career fairs on campus where you can engage with them, with employers from the world over. We also have a handshake portal where you can apply to various jobs that you'd like to. So that was a little brief snapshot, about UC Riverside. I am located in Delhi. I have my contact details here. If you guys have any more questions, I'm very happy to, take you guys through them as well. And I'll now pass it over to Emily for her slide.
Thank you. All right, let's finish this out by talking about the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You'll notice that the city of Madison is located in the state of Wisconsin, which is in the northern part of the United States. So it's a little bit different from Southern California in that we do experience all 4 seasons of the year. You'll notice that it does get pretty cold in the winter months. We do get a lot of snow, but rest assured, all of our students and many of our community members are able to enjoy the outdoors, regardless of what time of year it is. Now, there are 3 things I hope you remember about the University of Wisconsin-Madison. The first are our academic opportunities. You'll notice that we have around 125 undergraduate majors and over 70 undergraduate certificate programs located across 8 schools and colleges. Certificates are similar to a minor at another college or university, but it's more of a concentration that allows students to take courses in different subjects and connect all of that back to the study of one topic. So between these 125 undergraduate majors and over 70 undergraduate certificates, it's very likely we have a combination of majors and certificates to help you achieve your academic goals. The second thing I hope you remember about UW-Madison is our community. Now we have over 30,000 undergraduate students from all 50 US states and over 100 countries, with about 10 to 11% of our undergraduate student population being international students. Now, this might seem like an overwhelming number of people, but it actually represents really great odds you will meet others who share your interests and values. And by making those connections, it's really easy to make this large community feel a lot smaller. In addition, if you do decide to apply to UW-Madison, if you do decide to become a Badger, you would join a network of over 400,000 living Badger alumni located across the United States and across the world. So it can be exciting to be a part of something that truly has a global influence. The third thing I hope you remember about our university is what makes us stand out, and that is the Wisconsin idea. This is our driving principle, and it states that what a student learns in the classroom should be used to help solve their community's most pressing problems. UW-Madison is fortunate enough to be a part of so many communities, and we take our commitment to having a positive impact on these communities very seriously. As a result, the Wisconsin idea shows up in everything we do on campus, and we often find that students who embody the Wisconsin idea, who want to make a difference in their communities, really thrive here at our university. So academic opportunity, our community, and the Wisconsin idea are 3 things I hope you remember about UW-Madison. If you want to apply as a first-year student, you would submit an application using either the Common App or the University of Wisconsin System application. We do not have a preference for which one you choose. We are honestly just excited to see an application from you. Full application details can be found on our admissions website, which I will happily post in the chat. But just as a reminder, since we are talking about college essays, we do require 2 of them. This is for all of our applicants. That first essay is going to be that self-reflection or growth or how you overcame a challenge. And that second essay is going to ask you, why are you interested in UW-Madison? And maybe by hearing a little bit about this, you might want to learn a little bit more yourself.
Well, thank you so much, Emily, Asta, and Carl. This was a great session on the essays, and I hope the students also learned some bits about the universities, and when you talked about the overview. I am quickly, we do have certain questions, so I will quickly ask those questions away. My colleagues have been graciously helped me to relay all those questions on WhatsApp. So I will be checking my phone. I'm not checking out Instagram. I'm just quickly opening up all the questions. So the first question that we have is from Nasreen Azimi. She says that I'm planning to apply to Wisconsin-Madison, so wanted to know what are some aspects that admission offices look into while reading the essays of students, which I believe you have already discussed, but do you want to touch upon this question? Emily.
Happy to. So when you apply to UW-Madison, again, we are looking for 2 essays. That first essay will depend on whether you apply using Common App or the University of Wisconsin System application. In that essay, we are looking to make sure you have answered the prompt and then just spot checking the college-ready writing skills and things of that nature. We do take a close look at your why are you interested in the University of Wisconsin-Madison essay. And just as a reminder, this is where you can be specific. Show us that you've done some research and that you believe you would be a very good fit for UW-Madison. Some examples of topics you could cover include, but are not limited to, academic offerings specific to UW-Madison, maybe a couple majors you're interested in. If you're not interested in a major or if you're undecided, that's okay. Feel free to let us know and then maybe talk about some majors you might be considering or things you might be interested in. Second, talk about how you might like to get involved in our community, whether that's student organizations, whether that's additional experiences such as research or study abroad, just showing that you can see how UW-Madison will enhance your learning outside of the classroom. And finally, as I mentioned, maybe talk about how the Wisconsin idea drives you as well, really showing us that you are committed to having a positive impact on your community as a student and after you graduate, because that does show us that you might be a good fit for our university.
Great. There's next question, Carl, I'll address to you. So I will club the 2 questions because this is directly addressed to you, where the student has asked, Shriya has asked you to provide context for community disruption, where she said, can Carl please clarify at this point on his slide? And what will be the appropriate word limit for an essay that students should write?
Okay, and I'll let Emily and Asha jump in too if they have anything to add to community disruption and context there. I'm going to take the second part of that question first. My best piece of advice on essay length is ask the university or pay attention to to the specific directions about an essay, because oftentimes they will tell you, here's the prompt, or here are prompts you can choose from, and then here is the limit. So I would say, though, most essays you will be asked to write in 650 to maybe 750 words. no more, no less. I always tell students, if there is not any specific limit given, keep it succinct. You don't want to write page after page after page after page, because keep in mind that an admissions committee, as Emily mentioned earlier, they're going to be reading every single essay very, very carefully. But at the same time, there's likely there could be a lot of students applying, and so you don't want to give the committee, just books and books to read. One of the ideas behind a college essay is to demonstrate your ability to think critically and to be able to express yourself and your ideas, in a limited space, in a very succinct space. So community disruption. When I think of community disruption, and again, Emily and Asha, you can jump in and provide your thoughts and context as well. But I think of anything that you have gone through, or that society perhaps has gone through, your community has gone through, that's created any sort of disruption. So think COVID, think what we've all just come through, and how that has affected you individually, your family, but also the community that you live within, and what have you learned? How have individuals, how has your community overcome that disruption? So that's what I think of when I think of community disruption, and then just writing about how it's impacted you and those around you, and how you've kind of worked through whatever challenge that may be. But I think COVID is maybe the best example I can give right now, to kind of help you to think along those lines.
That's exactly it, Carl. So when we were working to creating these slides, I accidentally kept my UW-Madison lens on. So the community disruption essay was typically only available to applicants who applied through the Common App. And this was space that Common App allows students to elaborate specifically on how the pandemic impacted them, impacted their families, their communities, and even the educational opportunities they had. So I think Common App is still allowing students to provide that information in addition to an additional information essay. Again, just space for you to let us know what's been going on and how that might have impacted some things that might have happened in school. And it sounds like for the UC application, context is considered. So maybe in some of those essays, that's where you can include that, but I will let Asta explain a little bit more.
So I think for us, we have a word limit. So there's not really, anything that one has to kind of struggle with. 250 to 350 words, be concise. And I've kind of taken single PIQs to help you guys understand that. So I think, that should be good enough. Thank you.
All right, great. So there is one question. To what extent does application essays play a role in acceptance of international students? Emily, would you like to answer that question?
I can certainly kick us off.
We can have Asta and Carl chip in.
Definitely. So for every single student who applies to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, we use a holistic review. So this means we look at every piece of material you send to us. We do take a close look at your academic record. Typically, we see students who are competitive are earning mostly A and B or A and B equivalents in challenging courses across core subject areas. But we also look at the additional factors, such as your essays, such as your extracurricular involvement, maybe letters of recommendation, and any context you provide to us. So essays are one component of an admissions decision. There's never going to be one factor that ultimately, makes the decision whether a student is admitted or not. Essays are a great way for you to explain who you are, the strengths you would bring to campus, your interests. A good essay cannot always necessarily replace a poor academic performance, but it does allow you to provide some context. But again, there is never one factor that will be determining what an admissions decision is in our holistic review process.
I can provide some context perhaps on scholarship essays in particular, because I do get asked this a lot by our international students when they're applying for scholarships and they're wanting to know, what makes a good scholarship application. So again, similar to what Emily just said, the scholarship committee here will evaluate holistically, but all of our freshman scholarships are also merit-based, which means grades, SAT or ACT scores are going to be very important. However, I always tell students, and I think this is true for admissions essays as well as scholarship essays, don't underestimate the importance of your personal statement or essay. I think sometimes students do because they come into their admissions process with really, really strong academic marks, and they think that's going to get them, where they want to be. With scholarships, just briefly, what I tell students is, as an example, if you're coming in, and I'm speaking now, a little bit more specifically to the U of A, but I think it can be applicable across the board. If you're coming in with really, really a really strong academic profile, high grades, high test scores, and you have two students that have almost identical academic backgrounds, but one of those students has a really, really strong essay or personal statement, and the other student just kind of, as we say, called it in, meaning they didn't really give a whole lot of thought or effort to the essay. Maybe they submitted their first draft, they didn't have it proofread. In those types of situations, where you have two identical academic backgrounds, but one really strong essay and one not so strong essay, the committee may be more likely to award the scholarship to the student that had the strong academic background and the strong essay, simply because, again, it's that holistic review they're taking. So the best advice I have to answer that question is, don't underestimate the importance of it, even in a holistic review, because it is still an important part of any admissions application and scholarship application process.
So I echo, what Carl and Emily have already shared. Although academic grades, are one of the key factors when we're making an important decision between, having to make an offer to one student over another, we will definitely look at, your PIQs. Please please consider those equally important, when you're submitting your application as well. So your PIQs, your extracurricular activities section that you'll fill in the UC application, as well as your grades that you'll be putting out.
Very rightly said. And I always tell my students that, the academic scores definitely talk about the academic capabilities of a student. And your, standardized test scores talk about the college readiness for a student. But at the same time, the essays or the PIQs, they talk about, there is no right and wrong in these essays, but at the same time, they also talk about who you are as a person and how your personality has shaped you be a better person who you are right now. So which definitely, if it is a stronger, if that has a stronger voice, then obviously that also gets considered. So there is a holistic review that universities usually look at, and there is no one component that is weighed more than the other. So it's important that we give due importance to the essays as well, so that you can showcase your best self to the university, so that they can understand you, who you are as an individual. There are a couple other questions that we have. So Carl, we have a very specific question, though it's not related to essays, but I think it'll be good to, answer this question. Aarti has two questions where she says, what is the average cost of undergraduate programs, especially in the engineering field? And what is the average acceptance rate at University of Arkansas? Is there a variation in number of acceptance during spring or fall admissions? Does University of Arkansas have co-op programs or internship programs? Though it is not related to essays, but I felt because it is directly related to you, I think I should ask.
Sure. So the average cost at the University of Arkansas, it is going to vary somewhat by program when you look at our cost sheets, but it's going to be about $40,000 to $41,000, $40,000 to $42,000 per academic year. Now, that does include everything. So what I mean by that is it's tuition, fees, insurance, on-campus housing, meal plan, and then the estimated expenses for textbooks and other supplies. First-year freshmen are required to live on campus their first year. They can move off campus then if they wish their second year. That will often bring down their housing expenses. So in some cases, overall expenses can actually drop somewhat the second year that students are here. There are internship and co-op opportunities available. What we typically encourage students to do is talk with their academic advisor and let them know that they are interested in participating in an internship or co-op opportunity, and the individual programs will help students identify those opportunities. And you know, that is a huge part of the educational programs at the University of Arkansas, is making sure that if students want to take part in those activities, that we try to present those opportunities to them. We have internship fairs throughout the year and different types of activities that help connect students to those opportunities. So absolutely. As far as the, I'm trying to remember all the points of that question. As far as the acceptance rate, so in terms of undergraduate admissions, if a student meets our minimum academic requirements, they will be admitted. We don't, of course, cap admissions at all. We will find a spot for any student that meets our minimum requirements. I guess I should mention that while we do not, for admissions purposes, require SAT or ACT scores to be submitted, we do highly encourage them to be submitted because we use them for course level placement. If you do not submit SAT or ACT scores, you'll take what's called the AccuPlacer test when you arrive on campus. It won't affect your admission at all. It just is used to help place you in the appropriate, math, English, reading, writing category. If you're applying for scholarship consideration, though, you must submit SAT or ACT scores. Our average incoming grade point average on the US scale is 3.5. However, our minimum GPA requirement is 3.0. So if you meet our minimum admission requirements, you will be admitted into whatever program you're applying into. So I think I covered all of the points of that question.
All right. Emily, there's a question for you. In one such webinar, we were advised that it is not good to say in your essay that you are not sure about the major you want to select, but we heard today that it is okay if the student is undecided. Maybe I didn't get it right in Emily's response. Can you please help clarify this once again?
Happy to. So when I said that it's okay to say you're undecided, I was speaking specifically if you are applying to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, recognizing that it could be a little bit different for each and every university. Some of them might require you to kind of apply directly into a program, so you would need to know what you're interested in. But at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, if you say you are applying undecided, that's okay. We don't expect you to have all of the answers at age 16, 17, 18. It's okay to change your mind. But if you do decide to apply as an undecided major, just again, let us know what you might be considering and maybe show us that you've looked at some of the resources available to you to help you figure out what your intended major could be once you get to campus. So UW-Madison specifically, not a problem, but if you are receiving other messages that are encouraging you to be more specific, follow those for the specific university. Again, just following the directions for whatever university to which you are applying.
All right. There's one more question about Common App. Does the Common App auto submit essays on their respective due dates, or do applicants have to submit their essays manually? I believe it is manually. Emily, would you like to take that up?
I think so. So when you complete your Common App essay, that should just complete in there, but you would be able to select each university that you want to apply to that is on the Common application, and you would still need to fill out any additional essays that might be on there. And you still need to hit the submit button for each and every university to which you are applying. Common App will not automatically do that for you. It can help to have, like Asta was saying, save each of your essays separately in case you get timed out, and you can just copy and paste it right back into the Common App or whatever application you're using. But for Common App, you need to hit submit by each of those deadlines to make sure that your application is received on time.
Great. We're left with a few questions, but those are usually, I think those are UC specific questions. There is one student who was asked which grades are considered for UC admissions, and for which I think Asta has already shared a link. I
just want to kind of highlight, here. So of course, I've shared the link for all the UCs, right? So we accept 3.4 GPA and above. At UC Riverside, again, it really depends on the curriculum that you're following. So please go and check which curriculum you do follow. Maybe a B plus and above when you're looking at your grades, 10th and 11th grades, and especially for 12th grade, you have to ensure that you don't get a D or below, or we can, take back the offer just because we do require a C or an above. So yeah, with UC Riverside, we're pretty flexible with your grades as well. Even, if you feel like, you're applying to other UCs that may require a higher grade, and essentially, we do look at other aspects of your application as well. So don't feel like if I don't have a 4.0 GPA or like a 3.4 and above, or I don't have all 90s, I can't apply to UCR. Please feel free to apply and we can look around your application.
Well, thank you so much, Asta. That was those were the questions, and I think we were able to finish it off in time.
Sorry, Megha, I'm just going to quickly take this one question. It's been sent personally as well as on the group just now, where the student is not able to find, what subject they need to mention for mathematics. So in the UC application, some of the questions are very US specific, grades are in statistics, algebra, etc. Whereas in India, there is only one subject called mathematics. So there is also a place where you can write integrated math. Again, I'm talking for UC Riverside. If you're applying to a specific UC, please clarify with them if that is all right for you to mention. Integrated mathematics is an option. And if you're doing the 10th and 12th board, it's an option as well to list it out. And if you guys have other questions after this, I'm happy to take them up on email.
Great. Awesome. So we do have the contact information for all the three universities, for all the three university reps in front of you. And all three of them have also shared their email addresses in the chat box as well. Please feel free to reach out to them in case you have any questions, any university-specific questions as well. And with that, we are through with the session. It's been a great evening. Thank you so much, Asta, Emily, and Carl. You've been a great resource in terms of walking them through about the essays. And we will definitely reach out to you for more further offerings. And any last thoughts that you have for us before we end the session?
I just want to thank the team of Education USA for really looking out for each student and really supporting them with such sessions. Really happy to come back and help students with their queries. Thank you so much for being the platform that can be the bridge between students and us, and whatever their queries are. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I would just echo that. Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and thank you all for attending. And if you have any questions for any of us, don't hesitate to reach out, and we're happy to help you in any way that we can.
Okay, so with that, we are towards the end of the session now. And the next session that we have is about resumes. Feel free to join in for this session if you haven't signed up already. We have already shared the registration link in the chat box. And we hope to see you next Wednesday, same time. Thank you so much for joining in. Have a lovely evening.